Welcome to the Soul of Medicine. So welcome everybody to the Soul of Medicine podcast, where we delve into the heart of holistic healthcare and explore what it means to truly heal and thrive. Today, we're shifting the focus from treating illness to cultivating wellness and connection as we age. So my guest today is my good friend, Ange Humphrey. She is a beacon of vibrant living in later life. With a career as a TV anchor and pastor, Ange has built a life centered on the 3 C's: companionship, connection, and community. She believes these are the keys to staying alert, awake, and alive. And she's here to share her wisdom with us. Ange's story is one of love found again, of meaningful work, and of the power of coming together with others to uplift and inspire. She's living proof that with the right mindset and practices, we can all create a fulfilling life that only deepens with time. So let's dive in with Ange and explore how we can cultivate the 3 C's in our own lives, no matter our age or circumstances. Hi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking me. It's just an honor. Thank you.
It's so funny that I'm on this end because usually you're the one interviewing me over the years.
Yes. It's kind of interesting for me to be on this end too.
You can give me tips on how I did afterwards. So you're such a wonderful professional interviewing people. And what I love about you, so Ange has a show called Lifestyles where she interviews people in the community and promotes their work. And what I love about you is that how a gifted interviewer you are. I kind of idolize you in that fact. So I'm glad to have reconnected with you. I mean, recently it was over the Mid-America Institute on Aging conference that I spoke at. So I was the keynote speaker there, and my talk was on the gifts of aging. So that was really amazing how the talk, I felt, went well, only because when we were talking about the gifts of aging and really honoring, older adults in different cultures, in fact, and how they're so revered and valuable and wise. And sometimes in the States or in the Western countries and cultures, we don't really honor that. We sort of outsource our adults, and it's such a lost. It's a little sad, and it's like a lost art of being in touch with the older generation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it is true, and I'm not sure that it's malevolent. I think it's just true. We do worship youth and chase the fountain of youth in every single way. And I'm certainly open to that as well. I'm not one of those people who says, oh, just honor every wrinkle and, let your body go. And that's not my vibe at all. But I think we do miss the wisdom and the experience from people who have lived a long time or a longer time than others. And if they've learned and lived a vital life, I mean, age doesn't guarantee wisdom, right? We know plenty of people who have made terrible mistakes and continue to, regardless of their age. So it's life experience as much as anything else, but also being alive in your own life, inhabiting your own life. And culturally speaking, I think, Kay, it's getting better. I think when we see Ruth Bader Ginsburg's, when we see, the Mother Teresa's, when we see the women in our lives who have continued to be leaders and CEOs and athletes and whatever else in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, we're seeing more of that, and it's being noted to us. I mean, it's pointing out to us, here is this woman who's still doing her thing and not feeling like she's got to rest in a rocking chair and give up all the things that give juice to her life. So it's getting better, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm 52, and it's, when I thought my mom was 52, I thought that was really old, but, I feel good. I feel like, this second part of my life, there's an opportunity to bloom and grow into more of who I am, this sort of midlife transition isn't so much of a crisis. I mean, sometimes it can be, but I also feel that there's a gift in it as well. So that's inspiring. And I've seen other women also do that as well, including you. So thank you for leading that and holding that space as well. You're welcome. So you say that as we age, we learn to thrive on a higher frequency. I love that. Could you tell us what you mean by that and how you've achieved that in your own life?
It's mystical, but it's also actual as well. And, I've learned so much from UK and in seminars with empaths in the room and how you feel, all of those things. I mean, obviously, we're sending out signals, whether we speak or not, all the time. The warmth of our bodies, the energy of our voices, our thought waves, our heartbeats. So we're these dynamic beings. And in my experience is when you are in a good place in your life, that just, whether you could measure it on some kind of piece of equipment in a lab, you can surely feel it. That's how you experience yourself and how you see yourself in community. And I think there are several things that make that true in my life. And one of them is just having a positive attitude and a natural curiosity. Just naturally curious across a host of subjects and topics, really interested in some of the most bizarre things and some of the most down-to-earth things and spiritual ideas and geopolitical ideas and personal ideas and food, recipes, wine, you name it, and conversation. So that being curious just keeps you energized and keeps you open. And that's what I mean. It's not like that closes down. What it does if you let it. If you stop relating to people, if you do sit down on the porch, and I'm not condemning that for anybody, but for me, that would be a prison sentence. But staying connected, you just keep that energy up here in a really good zone, a really high frequency. And that keeps me going. And
that's something that you choose to wake up to every morning, is it not?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's what I'm speaking from a position of excellent health, in that I recognize that it's a lot easier for me to be in a positive mood because I'm not battling chemo, I'm not doing chemotherapy, I don't have cancer, I don't have a tumor, I don't have those things that can suck the joy out of you, though I know many people who do have those things and still have joy. So I look to them for ways to navigate that when it comes into my life. But I realize I'm speaking from a privileged position of good health and good relationships and good connections. And I'm thankful for that. It's not lost on me that I am very fortunate in that way.
So you speak about the 3 C's. I loved how you said that companionship, connection, and community are central to your approach to life, your work, your relationships, all of that. So how did you come to realize the importance of the 3 C's, and how do you actively cultivate each of those aspects?
I'd like to say that I really pondered it and thought about it deeply and read philosophers to get there, but it just organically happened in my life that I was able to articulate it. I think I've always felt it, but maybe hadn't had an opportunity to preach that message, if you will. And when you had an unhappy companionship in your life, and in fact, a toxic one, it really has a value in that you sure as heck know what you don't want, and you sure as heck know what doesn't work for you. So when you are fortunate enough in this world to come into a healthy relationship in marriage or however you decide to define that partnership, it's just such a jazzed feeling to not be walking on eggshells and not waiting for the other shoe to fall and not going, well, that's when the battle would be waged, or that's when the fight would start. And to have that comfort in my home, to have that peace, and not just comfort, but joy. In fact, we were laughing last night, George and I were sitting on the sofa, and we both turned to each other and said, because we were both thinking about a trip we're going to make, but we talked about what we were going to do, and we had the same idea. We do that a lot. And that's part of our companionship. It's always in a good plane, because he doesn't need me to make him happy. He doesn't need me to fix whatever's broken or what he just needs me to hear, and to witness his life and to acknowledge his life in that way. And the same for me. He doesn't need to fix everything in my life, but he's a great listener and he's a great friend. And we're just so compatible, and that you can't beat that. And for every person who's listening to this, who's in a crap relationship, I get it. And sometimes it feels impossible to leave, but you can. You certainly can. It's not.
Yeah, you're referring to your 23-year, maybe it's more, relationship with George. Hi, George, who makes good bread. Hi, George. So, as you're talking about the keys to what a strong bond would be, so I think you said something really interesting, which is you don't need each other to exist in the world. I mean, you could independently do that. I think that some of that codependency that happens, like you complete me kind of thing, or with anything for that matter, not just another person, but anything external has to be there for you to thrive and I think that's part of the wisdom of I can do this. I am interdependent with people. I don't have to be independent, but you can stand alone. You are you. He's who he is. And then when you come together in relationship, it's a partnership. It's a companionship. So sometimes it takes a little bit to learn that. Takes some kinds of relationships to that not all relationships start out that way. And I think that sometimes is a learned experience. So,
well, I think
it's possible.
It's also knowing who you are in the world. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And not because I am a recovered fixer enabler. Okay. I didn't break you, but just stick with me, kid. And, all this sunshine and energy. And I'm just going to keep on throwing good love at you. And it goes down a black hole. And I had to learn that. I really thought if you love something, just keep on giving yourself and keep on trying and keep on throwing good love at someone, they would finally go, oh, that's exactly what I wanted and needed. And, we're going to get along and move forward. But it didn't happen. It just didn't happen because two broken people don't become one whole person. If you're limping along, both of you in life, you're not going to become a whole person. So I had to learn that lesson, and it was a painful one.
Now, did that come over time, or did you wake up one day and have that moment? Or,
no,
people are listening here and could you give me the supplement or the pill to make that happen so much easier? What's the easy road? Any advice around that, Angie?
Well, it was really a lifetime of having. Another good fortune is having wise people I could turn to who would tell me the truth in love, and turning to professional counselors and to people who had been down a road in life, and actually having them listen to me deeply and understanding what I was going through and helping me then speak what the problem was. And once, just like any kind of psychology, you really do kind of know deep down inside what the issues are. But when you say them out to a trusted, safe person, it becomes more of a reality and a possibility. And it's taken me a long time, and I'm so fortunate that my path has been graced with people who came alongside me at those hard, hard times to not judge me, but to hold space for me, that's a phrase you taught me, to hold space for me to inhabit that moment, to understand where I am and what my part is. It's not just like there was one bad person on this side and me, the good person on the other. Those were unfortunate labels we gave each other. But here are two people who really don't need to be together for any number of reasons. And no matter what I do for this person, it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be, because I didn't break him. What broke him were many other things. So I had to learn that. And one of my professors in seminary, we were talking about this, and he said, well, Angie, you can't have a whole relationship with a half a person. And that was, one of those light bulb moments. That is exactly what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to create what my parents had, which is just a great marriage and friendship and love and affection and respect. I wanted that, But I was, as what they say, looking for love in all the wrong places. I wanted this person to be that. And he was incapable of it. He didn't have it modeled for him. And it just wasn't part of his story. And sadly, his story ended very, very sadly. He died way too young. But it took help. And that's what I want to say is I am so grateful for the voices who showed me love and light when I needed to hear it, when it felt like nothing else was possible. And if you're out there and you're listening and you're in a dark and scary place, get some help and get good help that can see you and not judge you, not tell you what to do. Now, here's what you need to do. You need to do A, B, C, and D. They just need to hear you and be with you as you walk. That's what worked for me.
I love that. So it sounds like counsel and community are really important. I mean, nobody should be walking this path called life alone. I mean, it's really hard to do it on your own. You know what I mean? So you've defined a little bit of what community means. And could you tell me more of the other communities that you have found to help uplift you or who you surround yourself with? Because it is something really important. And by the way, I just wanted to say that one of the risk factors of morbidity and mortality is loneliness. So, I think it's an important thing that we need to, put out there and talk about, and what role you think community should play in fulfilling someone later in life.
I think we have to add a word to that, to community, and the word is healthy. Healthy communities, because we are human beings and we will gravitate to other groups of people for any number of reasons. I mean, certainly we'll go to bars or whatever kind of thing that gives you, excites you or whatever. And that you have to, what is a healthy community? That is filled with people who are not struggling with, addictions and all those other things. To surround yourself by people who are mentally strong and stable, have their both feet on the ground, their heads on their shoulders, and who can be a healthy support for you, especially if you are lonely. You're not going to get unlonely by staying by yourself. So getting involved in some group, big or small, maybe like-minded, maybe it's a hobby, maybe whatever it is, but some group of people who can be present with you, who can acknowledge you. We do long for significance. I mean, we long to know we matter. That's one of, besides the food and shelter and all those things, we long to know that we matter in other people's lives. And so being surrounded, being involved in a community that is healthy, that is upbeat, that lifts you up, to me is central. And so often we don't look for healthy communities. We'll go to the bar. There's people there. Everybody knows your name at Cheers. And there's, nothing wrong with that. But, hey, it'll only take you so far. I tell people, as you mentioned, I pastor 2 congregations. And one of the things people ask me as a pastor is, church didn't do anything for me. It's kind of it's a triggering place for me. I was called an abomination. If you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, church, walking through a door is just like walking on a landmine because of the experience that people have had in the past. And so when we talk about church and they ask, what's here for me? And I said, I'm going to tell you, honestly, all I can offer you is community. Your faith tenets, the things you believe, are entirely in your hands. I'm not here to judge those or to tell you what they ought to be, but I can offer you community. You are welcome in this space, and you will be seen, and you will be heard, and you will matter, and somebody will care when you have to put your dog to sleep, and somebody will be there when you lose your job or your child is arrested or there's surgery. Somebody will be there for you who will tell you that you matter and that you're loved. I don't know of a better gift than that. So that's what I mean by surrounding yourself. And maybe it's a group of people, a book club. It's you go to snow skiing, whatever it is, but around people who can see you as a whole person and not be sitting in judgment of you.
Awesome. So thank you for saying that. I have a lot of patients who are sort of in that conundrum of finding even a new community because the community or their friends from high school or who they always hung out with, and the patient has gotten healthier and grounded, and it sort of just doesn't really match who they were hanging out with before. And it's such a hard negotiation, particularly, it's not like we're in school where we can meet a bunch of people unless, why is the bar the only place we can meet other people? You know what I mean? And so what advice would you give around that of even, I like what you said about the healthy community, because we really have to think about that, because it could be just as toxic, maybe your friends, but if they're not, supporting you in the way that you need, that could be detrimental. So what advice do you give maybe even people in your congregation who come to you for advice? What do I do? What do I do if I need to leave this group and find something else?
It takes courage, and there's no doubt about that. You have to step away from people that are so much a part or have been so much a part of your life, but you're in this new space. It takes a lot of guts. And nobody can give you those guts except you to know if you have said out loud that these people aren't resonating with me anymore. It was back in the day and I need to step away from them. I realized that pull is there to tug you back to where you were, because people who are still back there in your life tend to want to drag you down and keep you from growing and keep you from leaving them, because then that they've got to do something about them. Well, if she did that, then do I need to do something about that? And they don't want to have to face that actuality, that reality. Maybe there's some changes they need to make as well. So it takes courage to do that. And sometimes that courage needs to come in the form of somebody else who can walk alongside you and remind you that there are other options. And that's where, again, community comes into play, to find one thing or do one thing that will lift you out of that old self or that old way or that past that's so negative and draining, to step into that brighter future that you're beginning to feel is possible about yourself. When you start feeling those changes, and I know you see this with the people who come to talk to you, they're beginning to feel that change, and it's terrifying and it's wonderful, and it's terrifying and it's wonderful. But to have someone say, you know what, you can do this. You can do this. I totally believe in you. And that's a great gift to give someone, to say, you can do this. Or I see you, I honor you for making these choices and decisions. And it's, you do 3 steps forward, 1 step back, but, you still got 2 more steps forward. That's what it takes.
I love that. So could you speak more about being a pastor and going to seminary and that whole road? Because one thing that I see, and that what I'm seeing right now, which is really stunning, is that I think a lot of women in particular go down this road of that saving people and rescuing, and they're exhausted, right? And that's when I usually see them in the office. The number one chief complaint of what I see is fatigue. And a lot of that is soul fatigue. It's emotional fatigue. It's like, I'm done doing that, zero boundaries. And the fatigue actually, or the diagnosis of whatever it is, actually gives them a reason to pull back. And I do think there's this moment of this realization and sort of seeing where we've expended our energy and gone down these roads of having no boundaries and toxic relationships and all of that was draining our energy to begin with. And do you feel, and this is sort of a rhetorical question, because I see the energy coming off of you of being able to still be of service and still help. What's the magic in it? Because there's a way of giving and generating energy and still, offering things to the community and being a leader in the community without it being draining and, that codependent and toxic. There's a difference, right? And I feel like that's the ideal of, because women, as we get older, we actually go out more. Our brains turn more outward and being of service versus the inward and being more service in the home. And it switches for men the other way because they're more outward earlier on in the first part of their lives. Then they go more inward, like the second part of their lives. So could you speak to that? I don't know if you've noticed that about yourself or where that switch was, or was that gradual, or could you speak to that? Or even if you can relate to what I'm saying right now, I'm just wanting to call out what I'm noticing, and it's really interesting to me.
I can. And because I am a recovering fixer enabler, I'm exactly that woman, because I'm strong. I can do this. Okay. I can listen to your, problem, hours on end, and then keep on listening to that same problem that you're having. And you had it last year and you had it the year before, and we've talked about it. And I would just, have this long suffering attitude that I can take this, or I can do this one more thing. Until finally, again, great counseling in my past that said, why are you trying to carry all this? It's not even yours to carry. It's not even yours to carry. You have so much time to listen. And one of my friends who's a psychologist said, you'll notice that when we have clients come in the office, it's a 55-minute hour. It's not a 60-minute hour. At 55 minutes, most counselors will say, I'm aware of the time. And that's the cue to end this conversation. The conversation's going to end. And that means you walk out the door as the client. And you'll come back another time for whatever that is. But that was a good lesson for me to realize that this is as far as it needs to go right now. I've got to get over the savior mentality and acknowledge and allow the person who walked in the door on his or her own steam and is moving about in three-dimensional space, buying and selling and go to the grocery store and, moving around in the world, to realize they came in under their own steam and they'll go out under their own steam. And I can release them to that. And it was something I had to learn. Like, I can really let them go. In this unfinished conversation, I can really not answer my phone. I can really not return every message or text. I really can do that because I can't do it all the time. And it's, George's probably in there laughing at me right now going, yeah, well, you still got some things to learn about that. But I just had to learn what those boundaries and borders were, because I wasn't helping people by just letting them constantly empty out on me. I wasn't helping them at all. And that got my attention, because that was the opposite of what I thought I was doing. And I, again, had to learn what my limits are and what my boundary is for the sake of this person as well. One of my friends who is a psychologist, a great therapist, is so wise in so many ways about that limited thing, about limiting, having your boundaries, is saying you just have to let it go. You've heard them and they know you've heard them, and you just have to let them go out the door. You're not taking them to raise. You've got to let people go out the door. And I do overcommit. I'm the queen of overcommitment. I'm getting better at saying, not today. I'm getting better at saying, my time won't allow it. And I'm getting better in saying, especially in ministry, the problems that you are sharing with me today are beyond my skill set.
Whew, that's a good one.
And
I don't like admitting that one.
I didn't
but
either.
That's really good. Man, I love that.
God. I mean, I had then, because I did learn that, had to have a good list of resources to say, you need to see my friend Kate Corpus. You need to see my friend, this therapist. I have a list of phone numbers that you can call, because these are the people who deal with what you're dealing with. And that was a humbling moment for me, but a life-saving moment for me as well, and for them. I mean, these people needed something beyond what I was qualified to give them. Important life lesson.
Well, boundaries are everything, I think. And it's that first foundation of safety that has been, even as children, been violated, and we also violate our own boundaries so that we can remain attached and attuned, as children, right? And so we let go of our authenticity to remain attached. Attachment versus authenticity, as I've heard some therapists say, which is really interesting. And there comes a time when it's just like, you're so tired and you're so drained, I can't do this anymore. And some of it is just we have to change out of to survive. It's like there's nothing else that I could do except put this boundary down. And where I see you saying it is from this really self-assured place that I'm okay, they're okay if I say no right now, and you teach what that is, so actually model it for the other person, and it's okay. I think in our society, saying no is just like a no, like literally, or it's bad, or you're a bad person, or that's disappointing. And I like the verbiage that you're using of, maybe this doesn't work for me now. I don't have time right now, or I'll get back to you. I wish this stuff was taught to us, early on.
Me too. I think back, as a young girl and as a young woman, and certainly mother and wife. I wish that I had that wisdom at that time in my life. It could have probably saved me a lot of pain if I could simply have said, in this toxic relationship, it is clear to me that this is going nowhere. It is clear to me. Heartbreaking, but clear. I wish that rather than trying to fix it and bandage it and do, therapize it and all the things you do, I wish I had just had that personal courage and strength to go, we both know this is not going anywhere. This is not going to get any better. But, you live and learn if you live. And it is important to know our limits, and we all have them. We do. Even if it's just personal limits of just being exhausted. And we women in particular, I think men spend so much energy defending their jobs or work, or their work persona, or who they are and what they do. And women are guilty of that too. I certainly have been able to do that, but because we take on everybody's pain and everybody's feelings, and it gets really to be it gets confusing. And if you're an empathetic person, which you are, and I am always, I had to learn, which I learned from you, my dear, about whose is this? Whose feeling is this? If you're in a room of people that are also empaths, or people where the emotions are really high, before I walk out this door, I need to know whose feelings I'm feeling here. Am I taking my own with me? And learning to do clearing meditation. What a lifesaver that is for whoever's listening. Look it up on YouTube or whatever and learn some clearing meditation. It's like magic. Use it all the time in ministry and when I'm visiting a hospital room, so I don't take the pain with me from room to room and place to place. Yeah. That was one of those big light bulb life lessons too, to drop it where it is. And that practicing medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you have prioritized you and your boundary of what you're willing to take on and not take on, and know, particularly as an empath, there's nothing that we're not going to be different. You can't be an unempath if you're born as an empath, right? It's like you're going to absorb the energy. You're going to be affected by everything the moment you open up your phone or your computer, or you interface with somebody in Starbucks or whatever you are. And I think the awareness of like, okay, I'm doing that because that's what I do. Then what are the practices or the limits that I need to put on myself. I can only be in that environment for 5 minutes and I need to leave, or, or, hey, I'm feeling some weird stuff going on right now. I need a minute, just being self-aware, I think is the main thing. I think sometimes in the relationships that you talked about, it's like, it has nothing to do with, it's all about the other person and what they need and want. And we don't prioritize ourselves at all. We forget what our favorite color is. My needs don't matter. You know what I mean? And we forget about that. So it sounds like the shifting of to me, that's the highest form of self-love, is like, self-attunement and asking yourself what keeps me safe and what do I need, and I think that really helps. Somebody said one time, like, what you're talking about, like fighting the world, this sort of fight or flight thing is like to turn your hands this way. And you can still keep a boundary this way, but things tend to fill up. It's between you and the boundary versus having to fight things off and keep the boundary that way, right? Just flip your hands. And if you try that, it just feels more filling, if you will. And so when I see you with all that energy, I can tell that your hands had flipped from here to here, if that makes sense. So, because the energy.
It does. Years ago, when I was going through this long, rough marriage in lots and lots of ways, somebody gave me the Alcoholics Anonymous book for the families of alcoholics. What does the first page say? Now, remember, I've been through years of, abuse and violence and, really some dark stuff. The first page says, remember who owns the problem. Holy crap. Holy crap. I remember the moment I was in my bed, the kids were on both sides of me, and I'm reading and, again, trying to keep things calm in the house. And I read that, and everything in my life changed in that moment. I went, right. Now, acting upon that and bringing that into that relationship took a whole bunch of guts and determination to let him make a fool of himself in every single way rather than trying to protect him from himself. It was very freeing. And that is a lesson for all of us in every facet, every relationship, every, whatever dealing that we may be involved in, to remember, oh, right, I don't own this problem. I also know what problems I do own. But that set me on a path of safety and wisdom. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So what role do you find that purpose and meaning play in living a vibrant later life? Because it sounds like every step of the way has been super purposeful for you, and you share that with other people. I mean, do you find your ministry as your purpose and why you were born, or, how do you see that?
I knew from the time I was little, and I mean old enough to begin to articulate how I understood myself, that I was made for the stage. And I mean, when I was a little girl, I was putting on shows and writing shows and making every adult in my life stop and listen to me sing or perform. So I knew from the beginning of my life and self-awareness that there was all of this that needed a stage and a spotlight and a microphone, and not just, not egotistically speaking, but because that's just who I am. And I knew that. I would have been locked in a box in a corner somewhere if somebody had kept me from expressing myself in those ways. Fortunately, my parents were the kind of people that, you go girl, whatever you're going to do, let's do it. If you want to be in speech, you want to be in theater, then I'm grateful for that experience. But because I have this desire to communicate and be in communication with, to be in your sphere and you'd be in my sphere, to learn from you and live with you and hear your story. That's just kind of how I came into the world wired that way. And so that really explains everything else in my life, why I was attracted to theater, why I was attracted to broadcasting, why I was attracted to seminary and being a minister, because it's all ministry when you get right down to it. If you're not just doing it so your name is on a marquee or in the credits of a movie, or at the end of the day, if you're doing it because it's who you are, and you would just be dead without having that ability to express and engage. That's just how I have made my way in the world, is just this desire to communicate, to be communicated with and to communicate back to you, to know your story. And I love hearing people's stories. One of the joys I have in local lifestyles is hearing every day. Think how many stories I hear from people today. How many people did I meet that I've never met before? 3, probably 4. And I heard their story and why they do this, why they're passionate about this. And that excites me. I get to share their story, like, ta-da, here is Kay Corpus, and she's doing this wonderful thing, providing a platform. So that is ministry to me. And so being in the role of a pastor or a role of a minister, which is really what I am more than anything else, is to be with people in their stories and to understand those stories are as varied as fingerprints and colors and ideologies, and respect that, and to provide this weekly space that is viewed as sacred, but it's not fussy and like high holy. It's sacred because people can come there and be real and be raw and be loved and have their tell me their story. And people tell me all the time, they're so worried about God's forgiveness or whatever. God, you just don't know what I've done. Say you just don't know what I've done in my life. And I go, no, I don't know what you've done. But the God you believe in knows what you've done, and that's, you know what, you're still good. I think you're still good. And it's hard for people to accept forgiveness and to accept grace and to accept those things. So that's really where at Fresh Air and St. Lucas, where we are just this house of grace. And that is who I am and how I live my life. And it just keeps me energized and hopeful. That's, in this very trying times, to be surrounded by people who are just broken in so many places, but will love and welcome others and see others and just show up for others. And I tell my church people all the time, I'm so proud of you for how you show up for each other in big and small ways. It reminds me that there's so much good in the world, and often it's seen in the most broken people, the most wounded people in the world, who just, they get it. They get grace for themselves and they give grace to others. It's very moving.
I see that, when we think about purpose, it's not necessarily this job but it fits you. Your ministry is sort of this archetypal, you're a minister, and so whether it's on TV on Lifestyles or in the church, or when you and I are just having coffee somewhere, which we've had some of those conversations in the past. You're always doing that. So, is that how, if somebody were to ask, I don't know what my purpose is, and, even after they retire or in retirement phase, or what is my second career, it just sounds like the way that you're living your life right now, all the stuff that's happened it has come together in who you are and how you, because what you say and what I want to hear from people is that this is who I am, and I'm living out who I am. I can't do it any other way, and I can't be any other way. Right. And so it sounds like all the forces sort of come together to form this thing called purpose, whatever it is. So that's different for other people. So, could you speak to how one would maybe find their purpose? I just see it in you. You're so spiritually textbook, like how this is all coming together, but it's really beautiful. Could you articulate that maybe for us?
I wish I had some really sage advice there. But again, a lot of the time, it's just taking a shot at something. People, we all, have been socialized to, you work these years. So you work from whenever, 18 to 65, and we bought this ridiculous formula about how life ought to go. So you do this, you go to college, you get married, and you have your 2.5 kids, and then you retire, and then you whatever you do, without really thinking about, well, just because you retire doesn't mean your life ends. This should be a beginning. This in my mind should be a beginning of your life. And so as you are, for those who are listening, no matter what your age group is, how do you want that part of your life to look? I mean, barring any physical things that could happen, which they do, but how do you want that to look? Do you want that to be, we call it, George and I call this our age of adventure, of travel. So we determined that when we got to these places in our lives that we were just going to see the world. We're going to travel as much as we can, as much as we can afford to do. And I would say, don't wait till you're 72 to, get the travel bug. Do it now while you can and see the world and experience things. But if you have waited for your retirement, then just do it. And if it's too expensive for you, there are all sorts of ways to travel with groups that are certainly doable prices. And again, then you're with a group of people. They're all like-minded. They all want to see Yellowstone, or they all want to see the Eiffel Tower, whatever it is. That's a great way to enliven your life, but to not buy the BS that this is what happens when you turn 60. And I hate to hear people say, well, I'm 60, I've got all these aches and pains. I think if you articulate that, it's going to become true. Start making all those old people noises and giving into that, my back's gone out, my knee's gone out, and whatever. Those things happen. But to let that be what defines you will also be the thing that does get you in a rocking chair and does stop you from adventures, does stop you from climbing the mountain and being in the road race, or writing that book you've always wanted to write, or taking a class, whatever, because there are so many voices that will tell you what you can't do. So many voices that, well, you ought not to be doing that. But the first thing is people get you down off a ladder. Somebody's going to get you. You're too old to be on a ladder. Well, who's made that rule? Who made that rule? I mean, if you're going to be on a ladder, be careful. I don't care how old you are. Young people fall off them too. That whole idea about this is how it looks to be 60. And you mentioned this earlier about when you were a kid and looking at your mother at 52. I well remember, and I'm 20 years older than you, I well remember in my childhood hearing my parents or people at church say, well, Bill died, and he was 60. He lived a good life. And that I just accepted that. That's what happens to you at 60. You die. And that's how people view it. Well, he lived a good life. He was 62. And I mean, that's 62 is that, walk in the park right now. 62 is the new 40. So that's shifted. So we have to shift our ideas and mindsets to go with this living longer. And living longer is not necessarily a great thing unless you're living well and feeling and doing everything you can to feel well. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. You can just go for a walk. I mean, do things that enhance your health. And I say this to myself quite often. If you need to lose weight, or you need to maybe change some of your eating or add a little more exercise to your day, there is nobody in the world that's going to give that to you. It's got to be a personal choice. And we would love to, wave the magic wand or flip the switch or take the pill or whatever else and have it just kind of happen to us, like, Cinderella's beautiful ball gown when the fairy godmother waves it. Well, we can all come back from La La Land because it ain't happening. I mean, we need to be invested in ourselves in that way to say, what can I do? What is my part here in ensuring that those years that are the golden years are not just one doctor's appointment after the other, one surgery after the other. There are some people cannot help what has happened to them. I'm not saying everybody can. Please hear me. I'm not judging that, because I could fall off this chair tomorrow with a heart attack. But when you have options and you can choose better for yourself. And again, hear me, I'm not saying you'll never ever eat a cheeseburger. I just had one before you and I talked. Or stop drinking wine or enjoying your life, but to think, how will what I'm doing give me not just more years, but more years of life where I am engaged in doing things and involved with people, or is discovering it. A life, as long as you're taking a breath, is a gift of discovery, or at least I hope it will be. And that's what I, wish for all of you who are listening, is that there's something that piques your interest and gives you passion and makes you feel alive in all the best ways, and inspires you to say, I'm going to take these measures for myself. We both decided years ago, because we wanted to be able to travel, we're going to have to get out there and walk. We've got to be able to do, if you're traveling in Europe, you better be able to walk, cover some distance over there. And that was motivational. It was, this is what we want, so how do we get there? And we both shared that goal. Again, if it's not easy for you, and it's not easy for anybody, find a group of people who are part of a walking club, or you meet at the gym with some of your friends and get on the treadmill, or again, that's that community. All the Ys have wonderful programs led by really passionate people who can encourage you. Church groups have fitness things. All the organizations have. You can go to Purdue Extension or some of the extension offices and learn some healthy cooking. Watch YouTube, whatever it is. But to understand that it's not going to be given to you. You will have to choose to do things for your own self, be your own cheerleader, and get on that road to adding life to your life. If we're going to live, and I plan to live to be 120K, just so you know. So I've got to plan for that next chapter. I got to plan for what comes after 100. I'm working on it. I
love it. Well, I think you said something really important with this, which is choice, and the other is intention. Setting your goals and setting your intention, and that whole process with the mind allows manifestation to actually happen, allows those things to come true. And I think sometimes that when we are not making the choice and waiting, like you said, that would be nice, And I think we were sold a bill of goods as young girls that, we can be saved in some way, or things are coming from the external to save us. I think we've had rude awakenings with that. Do you know what I mean? And so that's really powerful. Choice is power. So that, I think, is really a good learning. So what's ahead for you? So you're going to live to 120. Is there anything else that, like goals and pursuits coming up for you besides the traveling to help you continue nourishing companionship, connection, and community?
A few years ago, joined at an invitation of a writers group. And I just went because I went with a friend, not intending to be a part of this thing. Now, of course, I've been writing all my life. I can't even think how many words and articles and sermons and newspaper articles I've written in my life. But to write a story of fiction was a real different idea in my head. And I'm just there really as somebody sitting on the sidelines, just cheering on my friend, basically. And so I was invited to do some of the writing prompts, the exercises in there. And it got attention, what I wrote, that people were going, that's really good. There's a publisher in the room, and she's encouraging me to keep this story going here. This is going somewhere, and work with it. And I'm thinking, this is kind of fun. I've never done this kind of writing before for any length of time, anyway. And so I've been working on this story for a while, and I'm not in any hurry to hurry and get it done for fun. And so when I'm walking those stories just come to my head. It's been really fun once you open yourself up and go to a writer's workshop where you kind of learn there's some things you can do to beef up those natural skills you may already have. So that was a surprise. And I love a surprise. But that was a total surprise, unexpected, uninvited in my life. But apparently I had opened myself up to the experience. And it gives me a lot of juice. I enjoy it. I enjoy thinking of those situations where the characters are in. And you find out, at least in my experience, is that, and I look at fiction works now and I think, whoever this author is, they are every character. Something about you becomes a part of every character in that book, good or bad. There's something about, so it's this interesting way to see yourself in this, the she or he or they possess an attribute you believe is true of you too, maybe not attractive, but it's there. And so you can write it into this person and see it in this new way and see yourself in this new way. It's therapy and cathartic and eye-opening. And you go, wow, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming. So that's really exciting, and I have no idea what will become of it, but that's okay. It's sort of its own thing. It's sort of become a character in my life, and I'm enjoying it completely. And of course, I will always love university life. I love to teach and I love to learn. So I'm a lifelong learner. So I'll if I ever do retire from the TV piece, I'll probably teach and also take classes myself, graduate level, from anything to ancient Mayan rituals to the latest recipes from France, whatever, because I'm interested in a lot of things. And what makes life rich. Yeah, I guess that's a good word. What makes life rich and what makes life good and something you want to live. Knowing that there are lots of people who don't want to, that have given up on life and love, and I understand that. And I just, encourage you to find some way to live in this world that blesses you, opens you up to the good that's out there, vibrating that's out there. There's glitter out there somewhere.
It's so beautiful. And as I'm listening to you talk, never did you say, and I don't even know if it's an intention of yours, is you're not doing this to stay younger. Because I hear a lot of people say, I'm just going to do this because it keeps me young, where it's like, I'm doing this because I want to do it. And it keeps me not just alive, but alive. Like it gives you all your senses are turned on. It's exciting. It's fun. All of those sort of descriptive words of living fully, right?
It's thrive. It's also thrum. Just have this sense of something thrumming inside you all the time that jacks you up in a good way. To go, it's a wow. Every single day, there's something that's a wow for me. Anytime I learn something new, that's a wow for me. I go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And I would want that for everyone.
That's so beautiful.
Some level of that, wherever that may be. Maybe it's picking up a paintbrush or picking up a spatula, maybe or a pen, whatever it may be. Maybe it's designing a room or picking out paint colors or planting a garden or loving that dog in your lap or finding somebody to go to the movie with and laugh. We miss so much when we give into our misery. And I get it. I totally get it. We miss so much when we become our illness, when we become the diagnosis, when we become the societal norm or the expectation, we lose ourselves. And that's how you shuck all that off and go, I don't care what the societal norm is. It doesn't speak for me. It's not my norm. And you're free to say that. Like you can flip that switch. You can flip that script and say, again, I don't know who's making these arbitrary rules, but they're not made for me. They're not my rules.
Exactly. I love that. Thrum. I'm going to have to steal that word, put it on a tank top or something. That's amazing. I love that. So how could we follow you on TV or social media or come listen to you preach?
Easy to do. Of course, the TV show, no matter where you're watching, is in the tri-state area. So that's southwestern Indiana, part of Illinois, and of course, Kentucky, western Kentucky. And the show is on from 11 to noon in the Central Time Zone. And you, of course, if we're not in your TV market, you can watch Local Lifestyles on tristatehomepage.com. Just click on Lifestyles and you can see the show or the interviews. And if you're interested in lead. I'm a minister to two congregations. One is called Fresh Air, and the name speaks volumes. And we meet on Thursday nights at 6:30, and you can go to Fresh Air Community of Faith on Facebook and dial in. We do Facebook Live every Thursday, and Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock, St. Lucas UCC. We also do Facebook Live, and I'm in both those places. And you can follow me and become a friend on Facebook, just Ange Humphrey. I'm right there, And it's ANGE, no I.
Thank you so much. I really do love you as a friend, as a mentor, as a sage, as a woman who I look up to and inspire to be. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and also your heart. And it's never been a time where you haven't shared the tough times in your life too. And I think sometimes when we go through those things, they could help other people know that we're not alone. I understand you. I relate. I can relate. And that just can help heal other people. So in addition to all the things that you do, I do think you are an essential healer. So thank you so much.
That's maybe the nicest title anyone's ever given me. Kay, I love you. You're such a dear friend. Precious to me in every way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul of Medicine podcast, where science meets soul for whole health healing. Are you ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and soul purpose? Then feel free to head to our website at kcorpusmd.com and schedule an appointment for your root cause review.